Here we are. We're going to be predicting every UFC champ at the end of 2025. I know a lot of you degenerates like me like to do those prop bets where it's who's going to be the champ at the end of 2025. This is not betting advice at all. Is this going to be a little bit biased? Maybe, depends on how we talk about it, but let's go. So first, heavyweight. Now, heavyweight, this depends on one big thing. Is John Jones going to stop ducking Tom Aspinall? Now, I'm not saying John Jones is scared of Tom Aspinall or anything of the sort. I would actually argue that John is pretty smart and not wanting to fight Tom. Because let's be honest, right? We have to be very real with ourselves for a second as fans. Whether if you think John Jones is the GOAT or not, heavily depends on one thing. Do you care about PEDs? Do you care? And I'm going to be honest, I care. That's why John Jones is not my GOAT. If I didn't care about PEDs, there's no way you can, in any fashion, there's no argument to make against John Jones. I hate to sound like Dana White here right now, but there's really not a strong argument against John Jones. Like, John Jones is the GOAT. Now, in terms of him versus Tom Aspinall, a lot of people would call John scared, but I would just say he's smart. Stylistically, Tom Aspinall is a problem for anybody at heavyweight. I mean, at first when we saw Cyril Gane a couple years ago, we're like, oh my goodness, yo, this dude, he moves like a welterweight. He's got great footwork. But the one issue with Cyril Gane, what we saw is grappling isn't all the way up there, to be honest. I mean, right, and let's not bring up him hitting a heel hook on Dontel Mays. That's not high-level grappling ability. But point is, Tom Aspinall is a bad stylistic matchup for John. And I don't think that's him being scared for recognizing that, even though he won't say it out loud. He'll say it in roundabout ways like, oh, we finally got somebody, he's younger, he's bigger, and he's all this, and this is supposed to be the guy that beat me. John, you could just say you kind of know he's better. But this depends on if John's going to fight Tom. And actually, now that I think about it, low-key doesn't, because one of two things is going to happen. Tom Aspinall is going to fight John Jones, he's going to beat him, or John Jones is going to vacate the heavyweight belt. And with that being said, Tom Aspinall is going to be the heavyweight champ by the end of 2025. All right. Now that since we're already here, let's look at the women's strawweight division. I'm going to actually make it's basically a double prediction. Zhang Weili is going to hold the strawweight and the flyweight belt by the end of 2025. Hear me out. We know Zhang Weili's fighting Tatiana Suarez. And I'm going to be honest, Tatiana Suarez fights like every 10 years, every once in a blue moon. I don't even remember the last woman she fought, and I'm not going to go bother to go check because, and this is no diss on Tatiana, she's actually one of the most talented fighters I've ever seen. I mean, high-level wrestling and grappling ability we've ever seen in women's MMA. But no, it's not her fault, though. She gets injured a lot, and she's dealt with a lot of different health issues and whatnot. So that's really not her fault, but again, just not the most active fighter in the world. And when I think about Zhang Weili, I think Zhang Weili, to me, pound for pound, all time, I'm going to go Dana White mode when it comes to Zhang Weili. I think she's the most skilled fighter we've ever seen. I don't care what anybody says. So I got her beating Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez is probably going to be her hardest fight she's had up until now. Obviously, besides Rose Namajunas, but we don't talk about that. That was AI generated. Never happened. See, I got her beating Tatiana Suarez, and everyone wants to say Zhang Weili's not that active, but it's like, bruh, most of the contenders, are just not really presenting themselves. And Valentina, I don't know. I guess she's going to fight Miran Fiorot. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but I can see her fighting Fiorot. And assuming she beats Fiorot, I think Dana does Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko as like a co-main or something like that. Zhang Weili becomes double champ, and then I think she ends off the year like that. The light heavyweight has a similar problem, where the champ is not fighting the number one contender. I mean, we've got Maya mixtapes, which, what does Maya mixtapes know about MMA? Apparently more than most people. Apparently, Alex Pereira is supposed to be fighting Khamzat Chimaev, which, take that for what you want, I guess. But truth is, Alex Pereira should be fighting Magomed Ankalaev. Is that going to happen? I still don't know. I really don't know. That's the thing. Because if Jamal Hill, right, with all the stuff that's been going on, I get it. Jamal Hill has made himself pretty unlikable to a lot of fans. But here's the thing about MMA, right? It really just takes one fight. It really does. With everything that Jamal Hill has been saying and all the antics and all that, If he goes out and knocks out Yuri Prochazka early this January, immediately you're gonna have those legion of people like, man, I don't know, man. Maybe Jamal was onto something. Maybe that was, maybe that nut shot really wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe, Alex was, advancing position during the rest period. Like, I don't know. You're going to see it. And I feel like Magomed might get shoot again. I don't know. Assuming Magomed fights Alex Pereira, if that does happen, who do I think wins? I have no clue. Because on one hand, right, on paper, if I'm keeping it a buck, and for full disclosure, I have every reason to glaze Alex Pereira because Alex Pereira literally has ties and affiliations to one of the gyms I trained at in Florida. So I have every reason to pick Alex Pereira and to be biased. But I'm going to be honest, I think Magomed probably wins on paper. But then here's the thing about Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev doesn't even know how good he is at wrestling. Now, is he the best wrestler in the world? No. Is he a submission threat? He's literally got 0 submissions. But he has the style to be Alex Pereira because he's one of the few guys who can actually mix it up. So on paper, if I had to put money down on it, I'm picking Magomed Ankalaev. But just knowing Magomed's ability to almost like fight against himself, I think I'm picking Alex Pereira. I think I'm going to go Alex Pereira, and I think Alex Pereira wins against Magomed, which on paper I don't think should happen, but he probably will. And then he probably goes up and tries to challenge for a third belt at heavyweight. And so then by default, he becomes a champ. Or somehow Jamal Hill beats Yuri Prochazka, talks his way into a rematch. Alex beats him again and then goes up for a third belt. Basically, in some way, I see Alex being the champ by the end of the year by default of winning light heavyweight, taking some time. Probably not going to be as active as he was last year, or maybe he will be, but I think I got Alex. All right, middleweight. The ultimate plot armor king, Dricus du Plessis. All right, so obviously he's fighting Sean Strickland coming up early this year. And I'm going to be honest, guys. I still see Dricus beating Sean. I don't know why there's this idea that Sean Strickland is going to win the rematch. Because I just feel like stylistically, Sean Strickland's style, which I'm not going to get in here and say it's boring and all this. Like, I think we've heard enough people say that. But I think the issue why Sean Strickland loses close decisions, like similar to how he lost to Jared Cannonier and had a split decision with Paulo Costa, is simply with the fact that he just doesn't have a lot of power. Now, can he finish people? Yeah, he's done it before. He finished Abus Magomedov and Brendan Allen. But when we're talking about the elite of the elites, I mean, the dude didn't even finish Sneeko. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Sneako's got a chin. I don't know. But Sean Strickland, when we think about the criteria of judging, when it comes to damage trumps all, I think he's just always going to fall behind when he fights someone like Dricus du Plessis, who just, for whatever reason, has infinite health bars. So I got Dricus du Plessis winning the rematch. And then in terms of Dricus du Plessis versus Hamzat, because that should be the next fight, in theory, I got Hamzat beating Dricus du Plessis. I'm just going to be honest. I was a Hamzat doubter ever since, I'd say, the Gilbert fight. But after what he just did to Rob, there's no denying him. Now, Israel Adesanya, definitely can find his way back to the belt. People forget, man. People forget, man, that Izzy can climb his way back up to the belt. But I think it won't be a matter of that he can't win. But I just think the time period in which these fights are going to take place, Izzy will probably have to make that run in 2026. All right, welterweight, Bilal Muhammad. I'm going to be honest. Everyone's switching up, but I'm not switching up on the guy who, when I saw him fight Cowboy Oliveira in his debut, that I said this dude's going to be the future of the UFC. Shavkat Rakhmonov is beating Bilal. And I'm tired of people pretending like Shavkat is not the best welterweight in the world. I'm tired of people pretending like he's not. Y'all saw him have a close fight with Ian Gary, who's valid. Listen, I was an Ian doubter too. But y'all watched him have one close fight And all of a sudden it's like, man, I don't know, man, dude, man, I don't know, man. I think Bilal out wrestles him. Listen, bro, that style of wrestling with no finishing threat is gonna get phased out. Give me Shavkat Rakhmonov to beat Bilal. And then honestly, this is gonna go into the lightweight prediction. I think he's gonna fight Islam at the end of the year, and I think he beats Islam too. Fights 2 times in a year, and we end the year with Shavkat Rakhmonov as the champ. I would put Buckley in the discussion, but it's just going to be a time thing. I think Buckley will probably find himself for a title shot in 2026. All right, lightweight. All right, again, y'all see the shirt? Biggest Charles Stan out there. Well, second behind my mom. My mom's a bigger Charles Stan. But when it comes to the lightweight division, it's just going to come down to this, right? Islam Makhachev, it's no secret. He definitely wants to go up and either fight at 170 or 185. Because I think Bilal loses to Shavkat, I think we see Islam beat Arman, goes up and attempts to win the belt at 170, and I think Shavkat beats Islam. That's just how I see it. Now we're going to go to 145. Now 145, this is where I'm going to go full Joe Rogan. People forget, man. Volkanovski is ending the year as champ. All right? This is the problem with MMA now. It's turning into boxing. Now, look, I get it. Has Volk lost three of his last 5? Yes. Has he been knocked out in back-to-back fights? Yes. But again, we're talking about Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. And I'm going to pull that card. He shouldn't have took either of those fights. I'm just going to say that. Shouldn't have stepped up on super short notice against Islam. They probably should have took more time to recover against Ilia. Now, the punch that landed on Volk would have knocked him out regardless if the fight plays out the exact same. Like, I'm not saying that his chin was like compromised and that punch is like why it knocked him out. It's not that. But I do feel like his hesitancy at especially in the first round, even though he won that first round, you did see a more hesitant Volk. Just a tad bit. And for right reason. Ilia is a monster in the pocket. But I think Volkanovski, if there's anybody who can make adjustments and game plan, I think it's Volk. I think Volk wins the rematch against Ilia, and they either do the trilogy or he's going to fight Diego Lopez. But I got Volk beating Ilia either 2 times this year or once and beating Diego Lopez and ending the year as champ. I know it's not a popular opinion. Everyone now is saying Ilia is like the best thing since sliced bread. But again, I'm very high on Ilia too. I think Ilia is pound for pound number 2 in the world. But I think Volk's getting the belt back. All right, bantamweight. This is a tough one because Merab is my guy. I actually met Merab in Jacksonville. And I had a conversation with him, and I have no idea what he said to me. But seems like a nice guy, though. So here's the thing. It's him and Umar, right? And whoever wins this fight is going to be the champ at the end of the year because no one else I can see in the rankings is beating either of these guys. Man, this is a tough one because Merab has a style that seems like it cannot be beat up until now. I mean, he's spamming takedowns, endless cardio, but Umar has got the kicks, and I think that's a big weakness in Merab's game, which I don't think Merab really has a good way of dealing with kicks, particularly to the body as well. We saw that a little bit in the Sean O'Malley fight. Merab just, I don't know if he doesn't know, but he just does not have an effective way of blocking body kicks. And then particularly probably even head kicks too, but we haven't seen it too often because people are obviously scared of the takedown threat. Oh my gosh. You know what? I think Merab finds a way. I know everybody's saying he's scared of Umar and he's ducking, he didn't want to fight him. But I feel like in some way, Merab just outpaces Umar. I don't know how. I'm going to have to sleep on it and think on it some more. But I think Merab pulls it out. All right. Last one, flyweight. It seems like Pantoja is probably going to never lose. But there's one guy. There's 2 guys for the job. And I'm going to be honest. There's only 2 guys I'm looking at flyweight that can beat Pantoja. It's Kai Kara France and it's Tatsuro Taira. Those are the only 2. Everybody else, they're not beating him. Well, Charles Johnson, if he works his way up into contention by the end of the year, it's possible. But Kai Kara France is probably the next likely opponent for Pantoja. And I'm going to be honest, I think he beats him. Now, that may sound crazy to think Pantoja, like who's going to beat him. I think it comes down to one simple thing when it comes to Kai Kara. Kai Kara has that one-shot power. And we know Pantoja loves to eat bombs and just walk through damage. And I think Kai Kara is going to find the shot. Now, in the grappling, I think he can deal with it well. We saw his fight with Askar Askarov. Again, Askar Askarov, who also, by the way, beat Pantoja. I know styles make fights. Styles make fights. But if there's anyone with the anti-grappling and that one-shot power to deal with Pantoja, I think it's Kai Kara France. And Tatsuya Taira would have probably been the one to do it, but he just lost to Royval. So I don't know what's going to happen with Tatsuya Taira in the near future, but I think Kai Kara France beats Pantoja, and either they do the rematch or he fights someone else. And I think we're getting Kai Kara France. Actually, they should do this. If Kai Kara beats Pantoja and Manel Kape beats Brandon Royval, ultimate grudge match. We got to do that. But in the event Pantoja somehow does win, he probably goes up and he challenges at 135, or he just keeps clearing out the division. But I think Kai Kara France gets it. So yeah, those are my 2025 UFC champ predictions. Go ahead and feel free to call me a casual and say I don't know what I'm talking about. Say I'm biased. Say I don't know anything about the sport. I welcome it all. Or be positive, which seems to be not common, but you can be positive though. Choose to be nice. And with that, we're out.